The weatherman says we still have one more day of this heat. You can see there it's supper time and it's still 92 degrees outside. I've had to get a little creative, trying to keep this cabin somewhat cool. Over on the west wall, I keep the outside door closed and hung a big towel over that window so the sun's rays aren't shining in here in the afternoon. And it's all helped. So, you know, it's just over 80 in here, and like some guy in the radio said, it's a dry heat this time anyway, so it's not like it's muggy, which helps. When I packed up my cooler for coming up here, I went in our freezer, and Bonnie had a bunch of leftovers packaged up in there, so, you know, I picked out some of that cubed pork, and now here's a couple big slabs of, this is lasagna that she had left, and I found the best way to heat that up is I have this double boiler. I just put some water in the bottom pot and steam my supper. So that's coming along nicely. My goal is when I get my supper eaten, I might go out and over by the side of the shed. I spent some time this morning trying to get some things organized, and I think I'll go back out there and trying to find a spot for some of that stuff. Had so much gear I hauled in here to put that cabin up last fall, and then at the end I just threw it all in a pile, so we gotta get that sorted out. It's so much junk to hang up, I need more wall space. It's about 7 in the morning. 56 degrees out here. See, I got the cabin opened up, letting it cool down. It's about 63 in there, so when the temperatures even out, I'll close the door and close up the windows and keep all that cool air in there, because we're heading back to 90 degrees again. And it sure is nice to be able to escape in there and have it a lot more pleasant. Out here in my morning routine, you get up, put a little bit of coffee on. I'm gonna take a hike out to the car, and the rains are coming, so I'm gonna move it up north. I might put a little stone in the road while I'm out that way, and then I'll get back in here before the heat gets really bad. This is Bonnie had picked up this little side table, and worked out really good to have my coffee pot, my cozy, my cup on there. Put a little food on there if the Canada Jays don't come in and start grabbing it. So really nice getting up this early. Oh, there's no bugs out here. There were some mosquitoes last night. I finally went inside, but right now there's not a one around. And when the temperature drops down here in a couple days, it might be so cold they won't be out for that either. So I've been really blessed with the no bug situation so far, because that's the one thing that will drive me home from here is when the mosquitoes get really bad. I could take a lot of them, but when those bullet flies show up now, they're the ones that really, big fly like a horse fly, take a chunk out of you. They can take the fun out of it, so Had a few treats, stuff brought from home, called these pumpkin bars. Bonnie will be surprised. I've been here for 10 days and I still got some left in the freezer out there, but they're far enough away I can't grab them real easy. And I go out and I just get one when especially like now, I don't really want to have breakfast, but want to have something with my coffee, so I have a little pumpkin bar, have my coffee. One thing I've done, I'm up early. One reason I'm able to do that is I really cut back on the amount of coffee I'm drinking a day. I just have the one pot, but I make a half a pot actually. And I must sleep so much better during the night that I just wake up a lot earlier. So that's a good thing. Oh, I still enjoy a good strong cup of coffee in the morning though. But not a lot of birds chirping out there, but all through the distance I can pick out some, I don't know what they all are, but I can hear some different tones out there. Beautiful morning. Coffee pot's empty, cup's almost empty. Temperature's starting to rise a little bit, up to 60 degrees on the thermometer behind my head here. Sun's getting up in the air, so the temperature's going to rise fast now. So I think it's time to close the windows up, seal the cabin up, keep that at 70 degrees in there for as long as I can. Like yesterday, it got up to about 92. It was so hot and sunny, and mid-afternoon I just took a nice long siesta inside. It was just too hot to be trying to do anything outside, and I knew better weather was coming, so took advantage and just sit back and enjoy the cabin and had the radio on, some oldies music, and next thing you know, it's an hour later. So life is rough at the cabin. As I said, I'm going to hike out. At the end of my morning, I'll have the car a few miles north where I don't have to. When those rains come, and we're going to get about 4 days of off and on rain with this hot weather. Of course, there could be some violent thunderstorms, depending on how it works out. They can't predict that kind of thing. But the point is, when I'm sitting here in that cabin and that rain is hitting that roof, I'm thinking about my wet road out there and trying to get that car out. So I just rest easy if I know my vehicle's up on high ground and, you know, I don't have to, it's not a road or anything, but at least it's high enough and sandy enough and hard, and I know that I can drive out of there and not get mired down. Oh, that'd be a sad thought. You get stuck about 1.5 miles from the road or something like that in one of my wet holes. And plus, when it's wet like that, it tends to tear the road up more and make some ruts. Like what I might work on there today is where some hunters last fall, I think, not the local guys, but others, they coming in and pick up trucks instead of using their ATVs when they're getting in there and start putting some ruts in there, 6-7 inches deep. Well, there's a point when they get a little deeper, you start scraping your bottom, and so I found a few rocks down the road a little ways. I'll go out and get a load and inlay them in, and they just keep on top of things. I've hauled so much rock in on there that it's not too much to keep it up now, but there's always these little spots pop up, but all part of the plan. Well, when my great niece was young, she knew when I took my cup like that, it was time to go play. So, time to go play. Constant project I have is keeping these ruts out of this road going in. Now this spot right in here, at one time it was corduroy. But over 100 years, those logs have now rotted away. There's still a few sign of a few of them in here, but so my answer to that has been every time I'm going by someplace, if there's some stone, I pick it up, and when there's a rut made, it's really nice to lay these 5 or 6 inch rock in there. I'll put a little sand and gravel on top of that for a binder, and then it makes a pretty good track for a long time that you're not gonna sink in. You may develop a rut right next to it, but then I just lay in another row of rock, and eventually I end up with a rock road. I just pick out the deepest ruts and try to have rocks that match so they don't stick above the ground too far. I really like it when I find rocks like this. Nice and wide, flat, make a great road. That gravel will settle down in between there and make a firm base. I'll drive over that as I come and go and get that packed out into somewhat of a pavement. So I'm always so brave driving in here on these wet spots because I know where the rocks are. Holy mackerel. Now that's a dump. With no rain and the snow melt draining off these swamps to the north, this little stream, well, it goes dry anyway. There's no springs up there. So once it drains out, it goes dry, but it's really dropped a lot just in the times that I've been here. But it's such a beautiful pool there where sometimes it pours over there so hard that it digs that out. Kind of puts the sand on downstream a little ways. That I just think it's a really beautiful scene looking down in that water. Well, I was out playing for 3 hours and jumped up almost 30 degrees Fahrenheit in that time. Sit out here in the shade and get cooled down from my 3-mile walk where I parked the car. Then I'll go inside and see how my cooling preparations for that. I closed the windows and doors. It was, what, 65 or something when I left this morning, so we'll see how it does. Humidity must be a little bit higher, even though it's been so hot. There's been no sweating because it's the relative humidity's been down there to 20 to 40% all the time. So I think that'll probably change here in the afternoon. It'll dry out again. But for now, I actually got a little bit of a sweat. Of course, it was a 3-mile walk in the sun, so not surprising. I'm sure glad it's the last day of this. This is the 4th day of 90 degrees, up close to 100 at one point. So I know we're going to cool down, but I'll take it. Got my rain barrels ready to start filling them up, get a good supply. I've avoided a walk up to the spring. I've had enough water stored in my jugs under the table in there. It's stuff that I filtered through a paper towel. Well, I keep about 12 or 13 there, so I've had plenty of coffee water, and I've been hitting this bottled water pretty hard just because it's so handy to grab one. And most times I never need that much water, but most times it's not 90 plus degrees up here all week. Well, nice to have gotten something done this morning anyway. Probably go in and cool down a little bit. Not going to be surprised if there's an afternoon siesta in the cool of the cabin. Let this weather pass. Go to it tomorrow. I chased that blackback woodpecker down here into the cedar trees and thought I'd have a look around and see if there's any calypso orchids up yet. They're usually around, the last week in May, but I thought maybe with the heat there might be some poking out earlier, but I don't see a sign of one, so maybe they'll be more on schedule after all. As I retreat to the cabin, I can see that nice and cool in here. You can feel that. You can see on the thermometer here that we've got at least a 15-degree difference between inside and out. Sure feels good.